but ease into the exposure. It doesn't have to be this really, prolonged period of time. For the follicular phase, for example, you do still have a lower body temperature, but typically because of the elevated levels of estrogen, you are a little bit more motivated, and naturally you tend to be, or we tend to be, a little bit more energized as well. So maybe, 2 to 3 minutes will feel good. Same thing with, during ovulation, you have this kind of spike in your body temperature, and maybe a longer, like 4 minutes feels really good, but you don't have to overdo it. The key is like really listening to the body here and not putting yourself under more chronic stress. Yeah. And then, like, depending, in the luteal phase, you have higher levels of progesterone, so your body temperature is naturally higher. It may feel really, really good to go into, the water for like 4 minutes, but it's not necessary. The research shows that 11 minutes a week is enough and ideal. So if you want to break that into 3 sessions, it could be 3, 3, 4, or, or 5, or whatever. And also, like, that's what research says, but you don't have to go in for 11 minutes a week. You could just try it because it feels good. Do you think that was helpful?
Yeah, and it sounds like it's like also like you were saying to like, well, what I'm understanding to also like experiment with it. Like if for you it helps you during your menstrual cycle, then you would have never known that unless you tried it, because if you were told that you shouldn't, then you wouldn't have tried, you know?
Hmm.
So yes, like listen, like yeah, you can look at the research, but you can listen to your body, but also just try it out and see how your body responds to.
Yeah, and there really isn't too much research that shows it harming any part of your female anatomy when you expose yourself to cold water during the menstrual phase. Like,
Mhm.
there's no research that shows, yes, this is harmful. So I really think it's a case by case basis and really specific to each individual's body. And once again, you have to have that trust in yourself to be able to try something a little bit different and see how you respond to it. And then you'll know if it's for you or not. Um, and I think that, that's kind of goes into empowering ourselves as women and not just listening to what we're told all the time, thinking that other people know better than we do about our bodies.
Mhm.
I've been living in this body for a long time, and I'm seeking the knowledge about this body. And I'm also, of course, taking in information about certain things, but I'm also having my own experience.
Yeah.
And as a woman, I think that there's something really powerful about that, just as humans in general. We have an experience, and we shouldn't dismiss that just because, we hear something that someone said once about, who knows what, and with what credibility.
Yeah. And you were mentioning also, I guess there's like two questions there. Would you recommend doing a breathwork session before every time, or maybe not a session, but like little breathwork practice before you go into a cold plunge every time to help you get into that state of like more connection and relaxation almost?
I do think that it's powerful when you do. And, there's so many different techniques out there. So, like Wim Hof method is pretty popular before going into a cold plunge. I do think it's really important for you to connect to your body and your breath at all times, especially going into a cold plunge, but you don't particularly need to in order to, go in. And it always depends on like people's own connection to their body. Like, as soon as I make the decision to go into a cold plunge, I immediately start belly breathing and like slowing my breath down. Like, naturally, my body's like, okay, we're about to do this. Like, we're preparing mentally for this for, 3 hours until the appointment before going in. Like, you can watch certain people who have done it many times, and you watch their breath, and like their bodies just naturally immediately know, versus someone who's never done it is like almost anxious, freaking out before going in. So I definitely think that connection to your breath before is important. And also, if you have access to a sauna, try going into the sauna for a little bit before. and seeing how that feels too. If you have access to these different like biohacking equipment and tools, see how it feels to like warm the body up a little bit before going into the plunge. And if some people really like that, I particularly would just prefer to get into the cold water rather than warming my body up, but you can try that too.
And there is such a thing as like cold and hot therapy alternating between
Mhm.
the two, and there's benefits to that too, right?
Yeah, a contrast therapy is incredible. The benefits are very similar to, cold water immersion. And also, I want to say it supports like tissue growth or something
Mhm.
like that. I'd have to look into it a little bit more, but yeah, there's benefits to all of
Like,
it.
is it maybe like human growth hormone?
It
You
might
don't know.
it might be that. I'd have to like go into my database of of that.
Yeah.
Um,
And I was gonna mention too, I think most of us are probably stressed somewhat chronically, some more than others. How would you say someone can go about knowing like this is the right time for me to like try this, or if they're having, do you feel like if you know that you're having an acute stressful situation, maybe this is not like the best time to go and try to do a cold plunge? Like, yeah, how do you know when is a good time to try it?
I don't know if I agree with everyone or like most people being chronically stressed. I do think that we all experience acute stress. Um,
Mhm.
but I mean, it really depends, like if someone's struggling with mood disorders
Mhm.
and they hear cold plunge and they see like, oh, okay, it helps to increase your levels of dopamine by like 250% is what research shows, then I think like, okay, doing it intelligently, trying it with a coach or a friend who's done it before and
Yeah.
doing it well, I think it could be supportive for that. And I think the right time to know is like when you get the urge and the desire for it and when you get that inspiration for it. If you're wanting to like for me, sometimes when I'm in a mental block, a creative block, I get into the cold water and I meditate on, whatever it is that's blocking me. I share affirmations, I share like manifestations out loud while I'm in the water, and it helps to kind of open that up for me
Mhm.
and builds that mental resilience. If someone is experiencing, if someone wants to lose weight and increase their metabolism, the science is showing that it's actually really great for building brown adipose tissue in the body, which helps to regulate your metabolism, can be really beneficial for that. So I'd say whenever someone gets the inspiration for it,
Yeah.
like call someone who has done it and tried it and you can trust and try it and see how it goes. I think I wouldn't say that there's a bad time to do it unless you're like literally having a panic attack or something. Then I probably wouldn't recommend going into a cold plunge during that. But I mean, even someone experiencing chronic stress, try meditation first, try some breath work first. And if you're like really want to try a cold plunge, it's just calling to you, maybe that's going to be your thing. And doing it intelligently with some support from someone who knows what they're doing and you trust, I'd say go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, like just again, listening to your body, it sounds like, and your intuition.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend a pregnant woman going into a cold plunge ever, but that's pretty much one of the only populations that I would suggest maybe not, or
Mhm.
definitely not.
Mhm. Um, is this is unrelated too, but kind of related. Is the sauna also contraindicated for pregnant women? Do you know?
So like,
I mean, I'm sure like things like this probably haven't even been researched really, but I know that a hot tub is not recommended.
yeah, so I think at a certain point for a pregnant woman, when she reaches like 3 months or
Like second trimester or something.
yeah, second trimester, maybe not. But I think initially, a little bit of sauna, maybe like 10 minutes of sauna, you're not really within 10 minutes of, say, a sauna is like the one that I go to sometimes doesn't even get above like 125. That's like being in the desert in Palm Springs. So I don't think that that's going to be harmful.
Yeah.
But once again, trust the body, listen to the body. As a breathwork facilitator, I have guided pregnant women through, a pretty powerful breathwork practice. And I tell them, take it easy. go really slow, be intentional, maybe, do a few rounds and then stop and see how you feel, do another couple rounds of the breathing, see how you feel. But like, I think that it's becoming a little bit more, I feel like us here in the West, we have taken away women's strength by telling
Like
like Western,
outsourcing.
yeah, Western medicine has said like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Like there's so many things of like what not to do for
Yeah.
one pregnant women and women on their menstrual cycle. And it's like, we are really strong.